Welcome to the Pinetown Adventist Church, the channel we are transmitting now to members wherever they are. During this time of lockdown, we are in unusual circumstances, and fortunately we've made provision. We are in a fortunate position to still reach you wherever you are. Before we start, let us have a prayer. Thank you, our divine author and finisher of all that we see and experience on this planet. Lord Jesus, as we will see this morning, we have deviated from the master plan for those created in your likeness, that we are deficient and desperate in need of both physical and spiritual light. We are your subjects. Kindly bestow on us insight and appreciation for your wondrous works. In your almighty name we ask. Amen. On the 7th of March, we did an introduction to the Newstart program to demonstrate the power of this program, which exists of 8 factors that impact on healthful living. We gave an example of what the program can do to individuals who wrecked their physical, their mental and spiritual life and landed themselves into prison. After 7 years in the Victor Valley prison, the CEO, who was laughed at trying to introduce such a program to prisoners, was able to demonstrate that the revisit percentage came down from the Californian standard of 95% to less than 2%. Those individuals who participated, who signed up for this program, and who walked out of that prison experienced literally a new start on life. So one of the new start factors is the impact of sunlight. All of life on earth depends on the sun for energy. Without sunlight, there will be no life on this planet. Our earth is precisely at the right distance to sustain life on earth. The sun is part of a master design that impacts our lives in a very meaningful way. In this slide, you can see me and my family investigating the effect of photoperiod and temperature, all from the sun, on soybean production back in 1984 at Purdue University. The little one that you see here at the bottom is my son Armand, who also attends the Pinetown Church, and he now also has a PhD in soybean physiology and being full-time involved in soybean production and research. What we found out was that flowering effect was affected by the duration of night hours or sunlight and the ratio of red to far red light. So the soybean will not flower until a certain day length has been reached. Ultraviolet light shortens and far red light lengthens internode length. So plants will etiolate if there's little sunshine. Photosynthesis, of course, is an amazing process, converting sun energy to organic energy, which result in food and oxygen for man and animal. And we will talk again about photosynthesis when we get to some of the other factors. Sun sends out electromagnetic rays. And those rays come in wavelengths, very short wavelength, is high intensity energy, to low long wavelengths with low energy. Interesting enough, in the visible spectrum for the human eye, there's a kaleidoscope of colors, which is quite interesting. We will talk about that more. The sun also radiates rays that is dangerous for man. The gamma rays, the X-rays are shielded from our planet by the ozone layer. And rays that's allowed through is the UV layers, the visible layers, and then the long wave radio signals. You will see that very little reach the Earth in the UV spectrum, whereas in the visible spectrum there's a lot of rays coming in, making things very clear for us to see on the planet. Not all life see equally. This is what man observes when he looks at a yellow flower between 400 and 700 nanometers. But this is what a bee sees. Bees are able to view life in the UV spectrum, and they cannot see the red spectrum. So if you want to go and take out bees or visit a beehive, put on a red clothes. You've all noticed how sunflower can follow the sun through the sky during the day, and I'm sure you've wondered how that is achieved. The sunflower grows on the side where the sun casts a shadow. So it always grows on one side, and in that way it lengthens on the shadow side, and therefore keeps the head in the sunny side all day through. And during the night it will grow on the side which was slow during the day, and in the next morning it will face the sun again. Life on Earth is flooded in a kaleidoscope of colors, and surely this is not coincident. This was planned by a master designer, and the design also of all the architecture in life on Earth is so spectacular, and even man himself, that it cannot be coincidental. I can remember that I got goosebumps on my body when I saw the macaw flying free in formation over the Iguazu Falls, the first time I saw them up in the sky. What a spectacular view. And I could not other but stand in awe and wonder about the beauty of creation, of planning something like this. A man who devoted his whole life to the study of impact of sunlight on human health is Professor Horlick. He's now emeritus professor at Boston University. And he's standing here second from left, him and his son. And these two gentlemen on the outside of them is telling them occupational sun exposure decreases risk of melanoma. And his experience in his research has also been, by contrast, lifetime sun exposure appeared to be associated with a lower risk of malignant melanoma, contrary to what doctors will tell you and what news media will tell you, and what your own body will tell you if you are reckless in your sun exposure all at once when you visit the beach. Our skin forms the corridor between the environment and our body. It's one of the largest organs in our body. And this study emphasizes it. It says, it has already been established that the skin is an important peripheral neuroendocrine immune organ that is tightly networked with central regulatory system. These capabilities contribute to the maintenance of peripheral homeostasis. Specifically, epidermal and dermal cells produce and respond to classical stress neurotransmitters, neuropeptides and hormones. Such production is stimulated by ultraviolet radiation, biological factors, and other physical and chemical agents. Professor Hollick explains that sunlight penetrates the skin, specifically UVB light, ultraviolet B rays, enters the epidermis. The alpha light can go into the epidermis, the dermis, and then visible light can actually go as far as the blood vessels. It can also go into your skull. I believe enough light penetrates your skull that you can actually read print. On a bright day, sunny day, one minimum erythermal dose is approximately 20,000 international units of vitamin D3. Now, one erythermal unit is the duration that you can stand in the sun and after 2 days will still have a red shine on your skin. Beyond that, you may damage your skin. Professor Hollick did a study where he compared different skin types and sun exposure. He did adults between age 18 and 65, and he exposed them to half thermal dose of UVB. And he compared that to 1,000 international units of vitamin D2 and D3 on a daily basis. Now, you can clearly see here that 1,000 international units and what is recommended or was recommended up till now is 600 international units. People still believe that taking doses can be dangerous for you. But you can clearly see that it doesn't nearly raise the vitamin D levels the same as for a light skin, up to 60 nanograms per milliliter, or for different shades of skin, even up to a very dark skin. A dose taking it by pill is still not adequate. Of course, if you use SunScan and you use a factor of 30, you completely block out any effects that UV light may have, and you deprive yourself of the opportunity to develop vitamin D3 in your skin. The vitamin is manufactured in your epidermis by converting cholesterol to vitamin D. Here's an alarming statistic, a graph showing deficiencies in all countries. And the worldwide values are 30% for individuals with a status of less than 20 nanograms per milliliter, and as high as 63% for a status below 30 nanograms. And 30 nanograms per milliliter is considered adequate. It will surprise you to see that there is receptors for vitamin D in virtually all tissue, all cells in the body. That tells you that sun exposure is very, very important for human health. And here's a slide from Professor Hollick showing you the risk of vitamin D deficiency. The consequences can be as severe as depression, schizophrenia, autoimmune disease, type 1 diabetes can be because of a deficiency in MS, Crohn's disease, cancer, various cancers, muscle weakness and muscle aches, osteoarthritis, osteoporosis, rickets, etc. And here is a graph indicating how quickly you can remediate some of these diseases if you can up your vitamin D status with sunshine. Go out in the sun. Even fighting diseases like TB, tuberculosis, vitamin D is involved, or the sun exposure is involved in the production of cathelicidin, which terminates the propagation of the bacteria that cause TB. So sun exposure can also help dramatically with TB. We are now in a lockdown situation also in South Africa, and this slide is just to indicate to you that this same chemical, cathelicidin, which is propagated upon sun exposure, can kill viruses, fungi, and bacteria. So the more you are out in the sun under a controlled manner, don't burn yourself, skin burn you. You can fight off diseases like viruses. The more there's a direct link between season and seasonal diseases like flu and influenza and virus diseases. Vitamin D has an antimicrobial peptide pathway and its role in the protection against infection. With the discovery of antimicrobial peptide gene regulation by vitamin D pathway, a renewed interest in its impact on the immune system has ensued. It is particularly attractive to realize that adequate serum levels throughout the life may alleviate many of the chronic ills that befall us so frequently, and especially when we age. The respiratory tract infections is very prominent during especially the winter season, and a concentration of 38 nanograms per milliliter of vitamin D or more were associated with a significant two-fold reduction in the risk of developing acute respiratory tract infections, and with a marked reduction in the percentage of days ill. So now you know what to do to prevent the common flu. Those with optimal vitamin D levels showed a substantial reduction in all-cause and cardiovascular disease mortality compared to those with severe vitamin D deficiency. In multivariate logistic regressional analysis, controlling for race, age, educational level, insurance, alcohol use, women with vitamin D less than 37.5 nanomole per liter were almost 4 times as likely to have a cesarean than women with adequate vitamin D. I want to leave you with some inspiration that came to us more than a century ago. It was given to a Christian author, E.G. White. And she said, and it was printed in Healthful Living, page 229, "The sun is one of nature's most healing agents. If you would have your homes sweet and inviting, make them bright with air and sunshine. Remove your heavy curtains, open the windows, throw back the blinds, and enjoy the rich sunlight, even if it be at the expense of the colors on your carpet." In 1871, in The Health Reformer, she wrote, the feeble one should press out into the sunshine as earnestly and as naturally as do the shaded plants and vines. The pale and sickly grain blade that has struggled up out of the cold and early spring puts out the natural and healthy deep green after enjoying for a few days the health and life-giving rays of the sun. Go out into the light and warmth of the glorious sun, you pale and sickly ones, and share with vegetation its life-giving, health-dealing power. How beautiful and how inspired were these words long, long before we knew the wisdom that I shared with you this evening. And this is only a very little bit. We will now hand over to the team that's going to discuss the lesson with us. A very timely lesson from the book of Daniel. Thank you.